It was very useful for last time, and it was also very useful for promoting it, which was where I've got people like Chloe and a couple of other people in as well. Lucky, all right?
No, yeah, sorry, I put my hand up by accident. I was trying to get into the chat, but I think the chat box isn't working. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Oh, no worries. Right, okay. So I am Sarah Wells. I'm from the Blackpool co-production team at Blackpool Council, and I'm co-producing improvements to the SEND partnership at the moment, and some work that we've already been doing. So we thought it'd be a really good idea between myself and Lackey from Birmingham to create an online space for other local authorities across the country to come together and talk about what we've been doing and how we've been doing it, because we know we've all got to be doing this now, and we know how much of a challenge it is as well. So I will go around the screen. So Alistair.
Hi everyone, Alistair and SEND co-production lead, which sounds like I'm therefore like leading everything on co-production in Liverpool, but I'm not. There's areas and bits and bobs, but all can become clear as we go along.
Thanks, Alistair. Erica.
Hi, Erica Smith, Blackpool Council, and I facilitate the Blackpool SEND local offer.
Thank you. And Erica's here to champion what we've been doing, all the work that we've been doing with her. So she'll be talking to you in a bit. Jeanette.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Hallam. I'm the newly appointed SEND co-production officer for Notts County Council. Apologies if my computer decides to turn off. It's because it decided it needs to reboot and it won't let me snooze it.
Oh, well, we all need a reboot on a Monday. Jeanette, come on, that's fine. Hopefully you'll make it back in.
But I will be back as soon as I can.
Hopefully you'll make it back in if it happens. There is. Chloe.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a Commissioner for SEND at Southwark Council and South East London Integrated Care Board. We're an integrated commissioning team, so that's why I'm kind of both.
Wonderful. Welcome, Chloe. And we will be talking about, when we talk about co-production and what we're going to do and how we're doing it at Blackpool, we are now moving into that joint commissioning phase and trying to really encourage that. So it'd be great to hear your perspective on that. Wonderful. Thank you. Zilla?
Ta-da! Hi, I'm Zilla Edwards. I work alongside Alistair, but my role is specifically around SEND local offer and coordination.
Thanks, Zilla. I know you were quite excited to hear about local offer stuff when you came from Zilla. Yeah. Wonderful. Kieran?
Hi, I'm Kieran. I'm also part of the co-production team with Blackpool Council with Sarah.
Thank you, Kieran. Becky?
Hi everyone, my name's Becky. I'm the Children's Engagement Lead. I work both at Blackpool Hospital and also do work in SEND services for Blackpool Council for the time being.
Thank you. Thanks, Becky. Emma?
I'm Emma. I'm the Liverpool coordinator for Cheshire West and Chester and the SEND local offer.
Oh, welcome. Thank you, Emma. We've not had your group before, have we? That's fab. And Lackey?
Hi everyone, I'm Lackey Sahota. I work for Birmingham City Council as the SEND co-production lead. Yeah.
Cool, fabulous. All right, super. So if everybody doesn't mind, we will kick off from Blackpool because we've got Erica here, and I think this is like meeting number 5 or something for Erica already today. We're taking an awful lot of Erica's time. So we wanted to look at this time co-production around the local offer in particular, because for us as SEND co-production groups for Blackpool Council, we have our young persons group, which Kieran is here and can talk about. We have our parent groups and we have our adult group as well. And then we also have, led by Becky, the Empowerment Forum for young people and then the Parent Forum as well. So we've got lots of groups and lots of voices, and basically this problem of sort of improving the local offer was brought to us. And Erica, you are the lead for the local offer, aren't you, in the area? Do you want to talk about what the challenge was and your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just bringing up the "you said we did" bit on the local offer because I was just to give you an idea of the things that were presented as or the justification for changing the local offer. There was lots of things about it's not relevant. So we did have it on a different platform, And then in May 2023, we relaunched it on our council website. So it's on our corporate website. And that in itself comes with restrictions, because in terms of accessibility, and it's not an IDOC system, so it's not as all singing, all dancing. It's very much about, it's very corporate looking. It's very much about there's lots of things that I asked if we can have, and it's like, no, because actually it's got to be corporate compliant, it's got to meet accessibility standards and things like that. Not sure how other people, well, some other authorities must just take a risk, because obviously if they're on an IDOC system and it's all singing or dancing, so that's our first challenge. But a lot of the issues were, it wasn't representative about what was going on in our town. So it was a bit more like a directory of things that, and if you, there were things that were going on in Manchester or in London, and actually that wasn't necessarily accessible and applicable for the young people and families in Blackpool. So I was asked to meet with the co-production team, and thank goodness I did, because they very much just scooped me up and took me on this journey. And spent quite a good few weeks or months kind of learning what wasn't working, and kind of, I don't want to say gave free rein, but really started with the parents and said, what is it that you need? What is it that you want on there? Did the same with the young people's groups. And that was 2 years ago. We're still meet and have those questions every month or every 2 weeks with the young people, even now. So it really is an amazing piece of co-produced work, which is ongoing as well. I think that's really important. So, you know, some of the things that they've said, and there's an area on our local offer on the homepage that says you said we did. So some of the things that they've told me that needed to happen was break the information down into sections. So, you know, we've got for different demographics and different stakeholders, parents, carers, young people, professionals, and also there's different sections. So it could be early years, different phases of education. We've got a whole preparation for adulthood section on there, which I'm really proud of. Some of the feedback was there's no button for an adult with SEND. So we changed our young people's area to young people's and adults, which kind of reflects that progression and that preparation for adulthood work. I don't know how to give feedback on what I think of the local offer. I need information on transport. I need information on personal assistance for my child. I need help making doctor's appointments. The name local offer doesn't tell me what the website is about, which I totally get, especially living in Blackpool. I think they were looking for like Pleasure Beach tickets or, you know, discount codes for the zoo or something. And it is weird. It's a weird terminology, isn't it? But so we put luckily our manager, well, my manager, she gave us quite a nice, she's probably regretting it now, but she gave me a nice budget, and we did lots of promotional merchandise. So everywhere you look, there's not many places you can turn they've not got a badge or a trolley token or a pen or a cup or whatever. So the website is, we had a full rebrand, and it's just everywhere, but we called it the Blackpool Send local offer, because I think having that word send in it, parents are specifically, they've got, it kind of gives a bit more of an indication of what it is. But yeah, it is a bizarre, I understand it, but when you live in like a really touristy town, sometimes it doesn't do what it says on the tin. Sarah, feel free to jump in. I was just going to give a bit of of data. I like a little bit of data just to show that it was on our old platform for 4 years, roughly, and in that time had about 15,500 visits to the site. Because even though accessibility wise and, you know, visually appealing, we would like to change things, because our content is so strong and has been co-produced with the people it serves. In our first year, we had 56,500 views, which was an increase. Now, I do like, as much as I do like a bit of data, which is a 262% increase against the total time that it was live on the old platform. And if we compare 1 year on the old platform to 1 year on the new platform, it was an increase of 1,348%. Now, if I could apply that to my bank balance, I'd be absolutely laughing.
We'd be really happy. Yeah.
And it's just, I think what makes it work is our young people and parents are still going into it, exploring it, comparing it with other local authorities, even without my direction. I think because they have been such a part of this journey, they'll go, oh, well, we've seen that such and such an authority have done this. Can we have this? Or actually, we think this information's on another's, but we think our information's better. So it's they're invested, and I think that's So in terms of when we did the launch at our SEND conference in October 23, they spoke and presented with me. They answered questions, and I think it's that if I left tomorrow. But don't worry, Sarah, I'm not going anywhere. But I know that this group and that that mechanism of making sure that it is still accurate and it does reflect the needs of the people of Blackpool, that would stay. That would still, that new person could slot in, and that mechanism for making sure it continues is there. Sarah, have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so, Erica. Thank you so much. It's what we discussed last time was the fact that actually the difference between sort of consultation and participation, which is really important, and that step up to co-production where there are invested groups over a really long period of time.
Yeah.
This isn't sort of, we think we need to do something, so we've taken it to some young people, we've taken it to some parents, we've taken it to some adults, and then we've gone away and done it. It was literally families didn't even really know it existed, and when they went on there they were frustrated because they didn't get what they needed from it, and they brought that to us. And Erica just literally brought lots of sheets of paper with what it looks like currently to all of those people and said, what do we do? I'm a bit over, I think Erica, you were a bit overwhelmed with it yourself, weren't you? Erica, here's your new job, the local offer, can you please sort it out?
I was terrified. Absolutely.
Yeah, so and they took it and they owned it. So in terms of, they did the research to think what should be on there, and they came up with some really specific things that we potentially wouldn't have identified if it wasn't for them thinking about it over a really long period of time. So parents saying, quite often if you're a SEND parent, you reach the point when you're in crisis, there's no button on the local offer that says what do you do if you're a parent in crisis. There's no the activities weren't necessarily relevant enough for families. They all really wanted to know things about which school is best for me to choose if I'm a SEND parent, and where do I go if I really wanted to go to a particular school and they don't want me. All sorts of those things, they were the things that they were raising. I mean, Kieran, you've been quite a big part of looking at the young people's group, obviously, that you're in every time, but you looked a lot at the mental health information on there, haven't you? Various
Would you
things.
like me to talk about it?
Yeah, please, Kieran, whatever you think's relevant.
I mean, when I first looked at it, when we first started doing it, when I first got involved with it, we were like, it doesn't fit the needs. And I think Erica was really instrumental of actually taking on board what we said and fixing it so it's better. I think now we have one of the best local offers, and other people need to adopt that, because I tell you, when I looked at it first, it looked awful. But if you look at it today, it's more accessible, it's more easy to use, and it fits the purpose that we wanted to fit. And we looked at the mental health bit, and it wasn't working. And now, I think because we work with other people in the area of mental health, and we fixed it. So now I think we are one of the best local offers out there, and that's down to all people working together, like co-producing it, and for Erica for taking our ideas on board. I'm really proud that I got to be a part of that work and making it a lot better. And it's not just about that, oh yeah, we've done what we needed to do now. Now, we talk about it all the time. we
Thanks,
keep
Kieran.
improving it, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, it's the constant reevaluation of it, isn't it, Kieran? It's the constant sort of keep coming back to it because
Yeah.
actually, you know, we've talked over the last few weeks quite a lot about the ripple effects of our work, and one of the things that young people raise with us regularly is their increased confidence, their confidence in being able to look at something critically, give their opinion on it, and feel like they've actually got a voice and something will happen. And Kieran, you also raised another really important point there in that we have drawn and invited other practitioners and professionals into the space around improving the local offer. So we've got the woman who is the manager of the local CAMS service, the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. We've drawn in our local preparation for adulthood officer who deals with all of that, you know, and all of those teams now, by promoting it across all of us, we've managed to draw in so many other teams that Erica, teams are actually coming to you now, aren't they, and saying, can I please redesign what I'm going to put on the local offer? Can I be on there, please? Whereas actually before it was sort of a bit of a wall of silence saying, give us the updates to what you actually provide because it needs to be on there.
I think that's it. So I think there's been a real culture shift in the last 18 months. At first, it was like crickets. You were constantly hounding people going, is this information accurate? But now what we do is we have local offer champions from wider services. And I'll go, over the last 6 months, your pages have had these many hits. Can you make sure that your information is up to date? And actually, I think when you have that two-way communication, they're like, oh, actually, yeah. So this morning, come back from half term this morning and like Cindy asked, like, we've done a new website and please can you make sure that this is reflected on the local offer. I emailed all the schools just before half term to say, please can you make sure that the link to the local offer on your send area of your website is the right one, it's not the old platform. Equally, we've got a managers away day tomorrow, and one of the things on there is comms is making sure that if we're promoting anything on the council website, send them through the local offer, because actually then they're going to be more familiar with that area rather than just, so whether it's the post 16 transition transport statement, we've got that on the local offer, send people through there so that they are familiar, because you can guarantee for one person that knows about it, there's another 10 that don't even now. I mean, now we're celebrating our second birthday in May, and we're on 89,000 views. My aim is to get to 100,000 by our second birthday, and that would be amazing. And of those, nearly 30,000 already are new users, so we can see who are the new visitors to the site, which I think we've got about 40,000 families in Blackpool with Send. So that those are really positive numbers. I think also what is really important is, and we talk about this, I know I've been in a meeting with Kieran and Becky this morning, I've spoken to Sarah this morning about, as much as I am asking for information and feedback from those from our different groups, whether it's our youth group, whether it's our parents, whether it's from our schools, I also do a monthly report for the parent group to tell them, these are the top 5 pages that have been used. These are the changes. I also share that with our Senko network meeting every half term, so that Senkos realise, okay, it's not just something that's up and the information always stays the same, it's constantly evolving. And with the young people's group, we meet every 2 weeks online. Excuse me. And again, it's telling them, and they are so confident now in going and saying, did you know that the young people's mental health for the last 2 years almost has always been the second most viewed page? Now that also, the data we receive from the local offer, the positive of it is that it's reflecting the needs that we know are in our town. So when we talk to health colleagues, they're like, that is, our CAM service, for example, we know that that's a massively under capacity, over in demand service. So we are seeing the needs of our families and young people. We're seeing that across the data. So when we are constantly analysing what are the top 20 pages, which ones are getting the most views, and reporting that back. So I think it's really important to close that feedback loop, which I feel like something we're saying all the time at the moment, isn't it, Kieran and Sarah? We just say that. But I think it is important because, and that's why I still, attend these groups, because we constantly, and I don't think it was a surprise that when we had our Ofsted inspection in last May, we were the first group that was, you know, asked to speak to Ofsted because they'd seen the local offer and the work, and actually I wasn't even in the parent group, but Sarah tells me that they were so confident in talking about it and actually feel that sense of like autonomy and ownership with it. So yeah, we're very proud of it.
Yeah, and I think one of my highlights was being involved in the video, making the videos and talking to people on the videos about different bits. So I think, Erica, you should be really proud of what you achieved with it.
Thank you, Kieran. Kieran, I can't believe it. I don't tell Charlotte because she's not here. We spent a lot of money, but I almost forgot about the video. So to overcome some of the restrictions with the accessibility, we made, again, I'm very, very kindly to my manager, and she gave us some funding for we commissioned 5 videos around. One was advice for parents, which sits on the parent section. Direct payments, Kieran, you're the star of that one.
Yeah.
Direct payments and finding a PA, because it's all right getting the direct payment hours, but then finding the PA to carry out those hours is difficult. So Kieran and his PA were on there. We talked about transitioning to adulthood, didn't we? So we had adult social care managers. We had one about what should happen at a year 9 annual review. So we had our PFA SEN officer at that one, and I can't remember what the other one was, and I feel like I should know. Oh, Project Search. So our supported internship program. So that's all around finding a job. So they're all dotted throughout the relevant sections on the local offer, just to kind of, and again, we monitor the hits, we promote those. We launched them last March at our parent forum annual information day, just to make that information a lot more accessible. And I think the fact that it featured local school children, local supported interns, parents, managers, and you know, it was really brave for our direct payments manager and our social care managers to go in front of the camera and be interviewed by the young people. But they've been really well received, but it was another way of kind of making that information accessible in 3 minutes as opposed to reading lots and lots of texts.
And that was one of the first things that the groups raised within the first few sessions was, you know, it can't just be in written format. It can't just be, we use the accessibility tools on your computer. It needs, you know, a video would be really great, people talking about it. So the links in the chat, if you want to have an explore of the local offer, now or at some point, but I'm just mindful that it's just been us talking about us, and it's meant to be a community of practice. So have you got any questions you want to share? Anything about the way that you've looked at your local offer, any co-production or participation or things that you've done around it? What is it you'd like to know or share? Zilla?
Yay, loads. Do you know, on the note of the videos, because I had that down as one of my questions anyway, it's more around who did you, Erica, when you were doing the videos, I suppose the logistics of going about it, who did you commission your own comms team, or did you go external? Did you, like, how did you get those videos and pull them together and decide whereabouts they were going to go?
A lot of stress. No, we commissioned so we had the ideas based on, I think, themes so my manager is the head of send for the council, based on what was coming through. We wanted PFA preparation for adulthood was a big thing. We had this preparation for adulthood strategy that was launching, so we tied it in with that. I think it was again, it sounds really corny, but it was responding to the themes that were coming through in the conversations that we were having with our different co-production groups and our schools as well. So, you know, maybe that bit of, as we were putting together, it all kind of fell into place at the same time. We were pulling together a transition protocol, so that kind of like statutory what should happen. So that was one document that we were pulling together and having published. Then we had a preparation for adulthood strategy. So we need to make some videos that support this. We commissioned an external team who had already worked with one of our other groups around born into care. So, and there was lots of planning. Myself, Sarah, And then it was just kind of lots of calling in favours to this manager going, you know, I'm looking at, I've been, you know, working within the council for like 22, 23 years. So I was like, oh, I know that person, calling in these favours, do you mind? And they were a bit like, ooh, and then we were all put, now these 5 videos are all around the screens in the office where we go. So it's really funny because sometimes you'd be like, I'm on the I can catch myself in that corner. I can see them on the TV behind me. So yeah, I think it cost us about, for the 5 videos, we spent about £5,000 on, and we did it in one full day. So the logistics of getting like, right, we had one group of children from one of our local special schools. We had the parent advisory groups, you know, and again, it was going to the parents, and some of them were like, I'm not comfortable to talk about it. I don't necessarily feel like that's for me. However, and so for some of our young people, they didn't necessarily want to, if they couldn't, say they were at college or they were working, but actually they couldn't be on the screen, but they were very involved. And we had a couple of project days, didn't we, Sarah, with the young people's group about what do you think information, you know, how long things should be and that kind of thing. So logistically, it was a lot of planning. I think we maybe started in about the October and we filmed in the February. And being really, and I'm not, because I am a control freak, I did have a script, and I was making sure, because obviously when you've got those, I mean, it was set up like, when Sarah talks in a bit, I'll put one of the pictures in the chat just so you can see, it was like a full film crew. It was cameras, I don't know, three different camera angles, mics over our head, and it was really funny because the young people got it pretty much in 1 or 2 takes.
Yeah.
The person who will admit that he got all tongue-tied was our SEN, our post-16 preparation for adulthood lead. He was like, oh no, I've got to do it again. Can we, you know, cut and do this? And the young people were doing the, what was it called, the snapper or something, the clapper, to get them off rolling. And the production company were fabulous.
They were very good.
It was a long day. And it was making sure that, right, okay, well, we've got these people at this time, and obviously you're trying to work around people's availability and things like that, but it was a very, very long day. But I think that because there was the script, so our managers or anybody that was being interviewed, they knew in advance what questions they were going to have, so they had time, because there's nothing worse than them being put on the spot. But yeah, no, it was a good day. I'm not in a rush to repeat it anytime soon because it was a lot. But we all, I think there was a feeling in the room that we've got to get this right for the people, you know, that it's aimed towards. So hopefully we've done that.
Yeah. Oh, fab. I've got a few more questions, but I'll ask them afterwards because they relate to something else as well. So there's a few people that have got their hands up.
Thanks, Zilla. Cheers. Sarah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it sounds absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I'm a bit late joining the call.
Oh, you've gone on to mute for some reason.
Am I off again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're still very much in our infancy at looking at what our local offer looks like. So, but our plan is, our sort of first step into evaluating ourselves, we're going to get our young inspectors to go on to our local offer and just navigate it and see what they come back to us with. And so our young inspectors, we've got some are young people with SEN, some are care experienced young people. So there's a breadth of young people within our young inspectors. So our first step is getting them to just literally go and have a look, and whatever feedback they give, we're not even giving them necessarily a focus other than go and see what information you can get off this that relates to you as a young person, and just see what they come back with. So we're not, our first step into evaluating ourselves is going to be just go and click and play and see what you can find.
Yeah, and that's so valuable. That's where we started, and you made a really good point there, Sarah, as well. There's lots of existing groups, you know, people, it's really, really difficult to get a co-production group together, but actually you've got lots of existing groups. Don't forget your existing groups. Don't forget to build those connections and make those links, because it's they're ready and waiting, aren't they? Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Alistair?
Hi, Sarah. You almost primed me there by talking about existing groups for the question I've got. So it's really, what's the kind of scope of the co-production team you mentioned? And you know, what is it that you're actually co-producing and at what level?
So that's a very broad question for us, Alistair.
Yeah.
So basically, we started off as part of a HeadStart programme, which there were 5 areas across the country that were funded by the National Lottery, and there were areas of sort of quite extreme deprivation, and we got the biggest amount of money for that in Blackpool, and we had a HeadStart programme that lasted for 6 years. But born from that, we did lots of work with families and young people and schools. Born from that was one of the best things that we did was co-produce, learn how to co-produce well, and we made loads of mistakes all the time, and it was really, really difficult. But actually what we came to at the end of that was we had a dedicated group of parents and some young people who wanted to stay on with us, and we wanted co-production to continue because we'd done some quite extensive co-production with children's social care, so that's kind of where it started. And as HeadStart finished, there's several things that were part of that programme that transitioned over to the council. So we're one of the teams that transitioned. So we've moved into one of the directors' strands of the council now, but we're still not core funded. So at the moment we're still in a test and learn phase. So we have two main pieces. Well, we're probably more than that now, but children's social care, and as part of that we've been doing some work around being born into care. They've done lots of work around creating a way of working with families called Blackpool Families Rock, which is about the language and the culture of social care, of children's social care, and how families would like to work alongside social care, and what the barriers for social care is, as well as families, and just working out sort of a culture and a set of values for that to work well. And then we've also had the SEND work as a big piece of co-production. So what we started that as was basically we were asked on the back of the inspection of the SEND partnership last time to co-produce some very specific things. So one of them was around communication of information to families. So the local offer very much sits inside that, but it was also around kind of a communications charter, to which we said, you have Blackpool Families Rock that's been being developed for 5 to 6 years, so let's expand that across all of children's services and not just keep it for children's social care. And preparation for adulthood was the other area. So what we've done is a piece of co-production work around preparation for adulthood, a piece of co-production work around the local offer, and we've basically just helped the SEND partnership to recognise that Blackpool Families Rock should be their next step in terms of how they should communicate with people. So at the moment we're in a transition phase where we're waiting to see if we're going to be successful at being jointly commissioned to continue with the outcomes that we've found through doing that co-production work with SEND partnership. So outcomes that we've identified have been things like high levels of exclusions from school, particularly with students suffering with social, emotional, mental health needs, you know, specific categories of difficulties and need, the high numbers of children being educated at home, and the sort of the constant off-rolling of children. So things that are basically the culture within particularly the school's secondary education sector, and meeting the needs of neurodivergent young people and actually SEND families within that secondary mainstream culture. So those are now the things that we're going forward to the SEND partnership to see if we can be successful with not only funding that, but as I'm sure you'll all be able to sort of agree, making sure that people are going to be open to that, that the schools are going to open their doors and accept that level of working together, because it's really hard. It is very much about it's not just about what do families need. So therefore we'll sit down with schools and families and we'll tell schools what it is that they need to do, and we'll let families do that directly. That's not what co-production is. Co-production is building a relationship between all stakeholders and finding out what everybody's barriers are. So it's what are the barriers that schools are facing in trying to meet that need? What is their perception of the problem? What is the language that they are using, and what kind of impact is that having on other people, and vice versa? So it's not about us doing anything to anyone. It's about everybody doing things together for one another, if that makes sense. Does that give you a snapshot, Alistair?
Yeah, I was interested in the kind of I think Erica, you touched on it, around the difference between the co-production of the website and communication, and that's sitting within a framework, and the actual co-production of provision that is as relevant, if not more relevant. I always see the website as a product of strong co-production in the first place. It's easy to, you know, throw the outcomes of all that work onto a screen. The harder bit is the actual process of bringing all those partners in.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we'd co-produced preparation for adulthood strategy, we actually said at the forefront, the strategy doesn't need co-producing. It's what happens on the back of the strategy that needs co-producing.
Yeah, the actual
these are all the things that the actual delivery of it. So that's what we're now sort of looking to get co-commissioned to be able to support, because we're also looking at, looks like we're potentially going to get some funding from adult social care as well. So what we're hoping to do is to be working with the whole of children's services and adult services and the safeguarding board, so which will draw in police and the justice system and all that. So actually to be able to tie it all together and co-produce in terms of let's share this information across everybody and just tie everything together as well as possible. So yeah, it's
and that's for everyone, not just SEND.
Yeah. Yes, so that would mean that we can step outside of that SEND piece of work and draw everything in, but you know, SEND is everybody's business, isn't it? So we would argue that that is absolutely, it's across all of it.
And I think it's just been a bit of a, I know for me, it's being visible all the time. So it's going to there's very rarely a week where there's not some sort of engagement activity, and you go in and you're constantly connecting with other services, showing them what's already on the local offer, excuse me. And like I say, over the last 12, 18 months, there's definitely that, oh, well, actually, this needs to be on the local offer now. Going to, so our parent forum has half-termly meetings, peer support sessions for parents. And while I'm there, I'll go, guys, is there anything I'm missing? Have you got any groups? And then, because one of the things that the young people said was, originally we had like a list of social activities, because actually the need for social activities is something that's always it's a theme in every discussion that we have with whichever demographic, whether it's parents or young people. And then I'll say, am I missing any? And they're like, oh yeah, there's an inclusive Morris dancing group, or this is a really good theatre, you know, performing arts company. So it's constantly, it's kind of being at everything to kind of put yourself out there all the time. So I'm constantly promoting, just to kind of keep it, because I think the worst, sometimes we know that something will be an initiative, won't it? And it'll be like the buzzword for a bit and then it'll fall off, and it's constantly having that being everywhere and trying to kind of be a bit like a dog with a bone with it.
It's keeping the relationships, you know, so that is at the core, you know, Lucky and I have said if we could have a big banner going across this every week constantly, it would have relationships. It is all about keeping those relationships going and those connections going and sharing information and, you know, just doing the best that you can with those things. It's, you know, it's important. So yeah. So Emma?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic what you're actually doing. So yeah, sounds brilliant. I think what I've done in Cheshire West is almost like started anew. But we've got the same product, same platform, but it wasn't working for parents. Parents were telling me it wasn't working. So I really had to think outside of the box on how we could make it actually work for our parents and for our young people. I would really love to shift the like our feedback to, like we said, you said we did, so that it's much more kind of like tangible, on the spot, kind of, and more right. We are listening to what you said. I really want to hear what's not working for you, so we can make those improvements. And I think I will go and have a look much more in detail what your website looks like. In terms of like, you mentioned kind of like some of the strategies and things like that. Do you find that do you have a separate local offer kind of strategy that overpins, or is that part of an overarching strategy that you've got? That makes sense.
Erica, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we don't have a local offer strategy. I think so we did have, when I was asked to do it, it wasn't identified in our written statement of action, which we no longer have, following a re-inspection last May, and it was actually because we'd met the objectives and the actions. It's now actually not on our send improvement plan now. I think because it's so embedded, it's a bit of a given now. Well, it is a given that it will constantly be developed all the time and kind of re-updated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and the other thing, like for me, budget is like ridiculously tight in terms of getting promotional stuff. So, and were you given a set budget for your promotional items?
I wasn't given a set budget. I'm just looking at who's around. Only because our senior leadership has changed significantly. So I spent probably around, including the update I've just done, probably about 10 to 12,000 on merchandise. But this is over the last 2 years, and there's been hundreds and hundreds. I mean, I think we must have gone through at least 200 mugs and all those kind of things. Because when we have a SEND conference every year. So in October 23, when we launched, I'm getting my ears, October 23, when we launched a local offer, we gave like a gift bag to all 250 delegates that came to the conference. So that in itself, so actually I've probably gone closer to 400 mugs now. And then we spent about 5,000 on the videos. That's probably it. But then I think we've saved that money having it on the corporate website. We're not buying in that IDOCS, that money's not being used on an IDOCS system. So I'm just very fortunate that it's such a priority for our head of SEND. And I think it was really exciting that this was she'd not long been in post when we did this, so everyone's kind of been on that journey together. So I wouldn't say there is an ongoing specific budget set aside for it. I think it's just because we're seeing the impact and we see the results. If I do say, and to be fair, I mean, I've only just put an order in, I've only had an order delivered this week, and that's since for the last 2 years, so it's not like we're going through loads and loads. But I think because you can justify the events that you go into, the people that we're reaching, so it makes it easy when asking for things. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's fine. And I just wanted to share this. One of the parents recently came to me with something called Padlet, which is a way of you can give instant feedback to different things you can post, and also then you can have like co-write information. They can be publishers. You can say, I want you to be able to read this information or share this. So it's only in like early days, but I'm meeting with parents to kind of really explore that and take that forward. And hopefully, I think the videos with that, you can do screen readers and things like that. So I'm hoping we can get some videos going from that as well.
I think the only one of the reasons that my manager had asked me to put it on our corporate site was because on the old platform, other people could contribute. Now, from me, from a logistical point of view, that will be lovely, because then actually the time it takes to put in things like, we have a count on the homepage, we have send events. So for the next for 3 months in advance, I'll have like February, March, April, and I have to input all of those. Whereas it's not like there's a shared calendar like if we were doing it on 365. So I'm the only person. So basically anything that goes on the local offer is manually inputted by me, which logistically is time consuming, but we've got autonomy that we know that whatever's on there has been quality assured. So I can see both, I would love for more people to be able to kind of input into the calendar, but equally we have complete control over what information is being shared on there. So I can kind of see reasons for and against, and that was one of the things that my manager felt she wanted to make sure that whatever we were promoting and signposting to was had been quality assured by us, really, which you wouldn't have with Padlet, because I do know, and it's great because, like you say, you can upload different media formats, can't you? But
Yeah.
I think it was just making sure that if it's something where you've got lots of contributors, especially if, say, parents could comment on there. So we have a parent forum Facebook page, and again, but then even that, I think that has to be, some of those comments have to be authorised, I think,
Yeah.
because obviously that's when you get into, it can be a bit sticky, can't it, if we've got parents and
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
other people just
You
commenting.
yeah, you can with the you can make it so that I see the comment before it's like approved, if you see what I mean. So it's not necessarily gonna go straight live onto our local offer. I'll be able to look at the comments beforehand.
I think we're just raising some really important points here, though, aren't they? In terms of there are always barriers to this. There are always barriers, so that might be your funding. And actually, the videos are fabulous, and the merchandise is great and good fun. But actually, they are a nice to have. The videos didn't necessarily need to be professionally provided, but they were, which was absolutely great, and it is a really nice to have if it's for merchandise. But again, we don't necessarily need them. They have really helped with the promotion of the local offer, but in terms of the quality of what's on there, actually it's the co-production and the time with the parents and families and the young people and the adult group that has sort of driven that, and that's what makes it successful, I think, as a site, in terms of it's because it's useful. People are going back to it again and again, and they wouldn't be if it wasn't useful. But there are challenges, with the cost of running groups, the cost of somebody. Eric, you talked earlier about going and visiting all the groups regularly. You come to everything, and that's actually a really big resource, isn't it? That's a really big, expensive resource. Been a few messages in the chat about things that are going on at family hubs and other groups, things like that, around early years as well. All those things are there, they're existing. So if you can free up somebody to be able to attend those and build relationships with those people, it is really useful, because you do need to build that trust before people will feel like they can actually share what they would want, or just have the time to think about it. Somebody jumped out at you on the street and said, what would you have on this website? You need to go away and think about it for a while, don't you? You need to go away and think, what do I want on there? What would be useful? But do I need to change anything else? So time and resource, it's a big factor. Alistair?
Yeah, I agree with you on the time and resource. The best way for us is always to jump on the back of existing things, because we don't have co-production teams. We don't have a local offer budget, which is why I asked about it being cyclical. And we're basically begging and borrowing money out of any pot I can get my hands on. I was only going to add, just on video, because we've had loads of feedback around the popularity of video, and we produced one a while back. And I mean, the best tips I learned from it was we got LIPA, our performing arts school, to get their A-level students to do it. And it was cheap. Obviously, it was cheap as chips. I managed to get them paid for it. They used it as the qualifications, but so it was young people for young people. And it was really, really good because we weren't dealing with a business. We were dealing with our students, which they got the qualifications out of it. It's out of date now, and probably Zilla's next challenge is to find some new students to get us up to date again. But that it was just a really good way of doing it because it dragged in our education and just closed all those loops. It was really kind of a nice way of them. You know, we had 5-year-olds on it, and the 19-year-olds having to learn how to talk to a 5-year-old. So it was
That's
brilliant
great.
to see.
I say it's such a really good way of doing it. We considered those things as well, and like obviously it's our families who have done those videos, so it's drawing people in. That's brilliant.
Yeah, we had a double. You have to kind of make a double plan with videos because you've got to get social media different to the bigger video. And we did the bigger video. We had another team lined up who cancelled the day before and didn't come to the event, who were going to do little social media clips. So we never got that one over the line. But you have to video in a certain way for apparently. I mean, I'd be interested to know what level of technical expertise you're all getting into these sites, because that's where I lack it. I don't have that. I'm leaning on other people to say, you can do this, you can't do that. I suppose it's the presence of the digital teams or where they fit.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is, because that's been one of our biggest barriers as well with our work. We've just been told, because we developed a website, we've got all sorts of social media going, and we've just worked out actually we're not allowed to do any of that.
Yeah.
So now we've got to rethink what we're doing with that. And these challenges come up really regularly, don't they? Erica, Alistair had put a question in the chat about whether your promotional funding was cyclical. Will you get it again, or was it a one-off?
Well, I've just had the second. I've just, to be honest, I wouldn't say, like when I was in school, I would manage a resource budget, and you'd have that every year. I wouldn't say there is money. Well, at my level, I don't have a budget, but I know that if I could justify something to our manager, she's very good at finding bits and bobs, but there isn't a kind of set aside, you've got this much for a year. I don't think after I've just put in just a little order, I think that'll be me for the rest of the year now. So yeah, I wouldn't say, but then I can't necessarily answer because I think it just sits within the wider SEND budget. So and I don't really know at that level. I think she probably in her head has reserves just in case, but
and we are really trying to encourage the SEND partnership to co-commission things, just each put a little bit in themselves, because the partnership is so broad, isn't it? You've got health partners, you've got education partners, you've got so many partners in there, just a little bit. And like you say, if you can't put any money in, well, actually, do you have any students with that social media skill that could be part of this work? And just asking them to be part of it from that point of view. What can you offer? Could you just, one of the Lackey's nodding, because just finding a physical venue in the community that you can use when your budget's been completely removed from you and you're not allowed to pay for that anymore. Local colleges, local schools, they might not be able to put any actual money in, but actually they're quite often able to offer you a bit of space somewhere, particularly further education, sixth forms. So yeah, whatever people can offer, we quite gladly take with a very large smile. And as for our funding, we will continue to have to be continually looking for commissioning and bidding for funding. So we are looking as a team to perhaps go for a bigger lottery funding at the moment for a 5-year plan, just so that we can actually secure the people that we've got in the office and actually secure the teams, because we've probably got about roughly about 20 members of staff on the team now, and a lot of those are family and community members who've come in to do the co-production, who have got paid work with us. So for instance, like Kieran, Kieran's now a paid youth advisor for us on our team, and will go and do further co-production work. He'll attend training, he comes to things like this to talk to you guys, and we do pay them for that time. And again, that the ripple effects of what you can provide to your local community as a council in terms of offering those opportunities is really good, but that also comes with its challenges as well. But Zilla?
There we go. Back to me. Oh no, thanks. This is really helpful. This. I've got one on videos, but it's for Birmingham. It's for you, like you've got your video at the front, haven't you? You've got your front-facing kind of video that explains what the local offer is. So I'm interested to hear whether that's something. I've not watched it all the way through, like how you went about getting that done. Whether it's something that you can just sell on, whether it's relevant for other local authorities to buy in, or whether it's something that should be, each local authority, because it explains what the local offer is more than what the services are within the local offer. So that's one of those questions. And then the other one really was back to you, Erica, around you talked about longevity with co-production and the working groups, really, I suppose, that you've got them on board for a long time, and you've pulled them in from parent group, youth group, and you mentioned schools, like special schools. I think you mentioned something like that. So do you have a specific working group that came from the projects you were talking about, Sarah, that pulled these people in, that now sit with you, Erica, as a sort of working group moving forward? Or are you constantly going into groups for that co-production rather than having, or, did you work with a set group over the 2 years before the sort of relaunch of the website?
Yeah.
So two questions.
Yeah, so I absolutely didn't set up another group. I piggybacked on existing groups, but it started with the co-production parent and youth groups, because those groups are well established and had significantly more wider contacts with other parents and young people than I would have been able to do on my own. So it was very much learning from them to which other groups then do we need to take this to. And Sarah and Kieran have been out. We've got another youth group called the Young Empowerment Forum that Becky, who's had to leave, Becky leads on that at the moment, and they took that out. So Kieran, you took it, didn't you, to the Youth Empowerment Forum for a couple of sessions and tested
we
it.
took it there and see what they thought, and they had some really great feedback.
Yeah, so both the adults and the youth group have done so much of that wider work that I would have been able to do as one person, and then I'll go to the parent carer forum, schools, Senko network meetings, anything else, and we still, even now, we'll still do things jointly, but yeah, it's very much about piggybacking onto those existing well-established groups.
Which is where I was. Yeah, that's kind of how that's the approach that I've taken. On the note of the feedback, then, sorry, just to jump in again, but the feedback, how are you physically getting? You're there at groups, you're listening to it, you're hearing it. I know that when you pop up, it's either Blackpool or Birmingham, but one of you guys have a feedback form that as soon as you go into the website, it comes up with feedback form. You said we did. Enter your feedback here. So is that something that you're using to get feedback, or are you just taking it sort of verbally?
Shall I answer? No, Birmingham.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump in. From a Blackpool perspective, every time I go to any, so we have two in the background. We have two documents running. One is an engagement activities and one is co-production activities. And it was a challenge in itself to get them separated, because I think lots of people are using the term co-production wrong and thinking that consultation was co-production. So basically every time I go anywhere, it's reporting, it's feeding back those themes and making sure that I'm reporting back to the parents, the youth group. We have two online groups. One's called the Multi-Agency Parent Forum, and that's got lots of social care colleagues in. One is our Send Comms and Engagement group, which looks at meeting the requirements in our Send Improvement Plan, and also making sure that I cover it on the You Said We Did on the local offer. So it's constantly I feel like I'm constantly feeding a feedback loop all the time.
And part of our commission was to draw all of that together and to make sure that there was a feedback loop, and actually to make sure that at some point we can step away as the co-production team and there will be embedded groups of young people and parents within the services working alongside them that they can go to and already are part of, so that parent forum and empowerment forum would be that space for them, and that they would be naturally attending that and they'd be working together. So it's for us to sort of increase that capacity for that. Right, Lucky, I will hand over to you and you talk about Birmingham for a while.
Are you sure? Okay, yeah, it's been really, really insightful, to be honest. Thanks for giving us such an insight into, you know, the work around the local offer. Where do I start? I think there's just so much going on, and part of the challenge is trying to keep a level of coordination. And with a city as the size of ours, that is not an easy fit, you know, not easy task. I mean, for example, so you just mentioned the video, and I had to quickly Google that because, you know, I knew that something had been done, but it's been a while since that got done. And I think that was done when we had a comms lead within our service. But then because of funding cuts, that role, she then moved over to the family hub and then disappeared. And since then, we've not had anyone else in that space. We have got a big bit of a deficit. We've got a young person, actually, apprenticeship, that's leading on all the work around, you know, the physical developments of the local offer. But we have got a lot more traction, you know, and we gave it, you know, the big send, a big push as well overall, which has but I really like the ideas that came out from earlier conversations around the young inspectors potentially. I think, Sarah, you mentioned that, I think, but and also the idea of having a champions group specifically for the local offer. So I'm going to try and weave some of that stuff into the work. The two or three big ones really that I've been focusing on is just trying to raise the awareness and understanding of what do we actually mean by co-production. And so we've been running lots of training to date. Had to get these figures pulled over recently. I think it's over 850 people that have been trained across the local area partnership now, and we've got scheduled training for the rest of the year as well. And so I'm pleased that that's going in the right direction, and we're starting to raise the level of understanding and expectations about what we actually mean by co-production. And so that's positive. But the question I often get faced with and I was just in a meeting earlier with our director, is so what? I know it's a really challenging question. Well, so what? You've trained, so what? You've got this going on. What difference is it making on the ground? And that's going to be the question that we're going to be faced with when the inspectors come knocking on our door. So, you know, I think, you know, it's just being mindful about what we think are impactful areas, and the fact that we, you know, young people, parent carers are helping to co-design, and sometimes co-deliver is a good outcome in itself, but using the right metrics for measuring co-production have also been quite key as well. There's a couple of really interesting developments that have come up literally within the last couple of weeks. One is that the Association of Directors of Children's Services in the region have pulled together a group similar to this, actually, where they're getting all the co-production leads together. And I don't know whether this is public knowledge, but there's a small pot of money they've got. It's around 25 grand, they're saying, and to look at some regional approach to co-production. So that might be worth, you know, you thinking about talking to the direct children's services in your areas to see if there's anything similar happening, and whether, you know, there's a way that we can actually learn and share good practice on a much, you know, and so that's one piece of work. I'm happy to follow that up. The other interesting thing that's come to light is issues around research around co-production, and because I think you can look at some degree of impact, whether that's anecdotal or some harder evidence through evaluations on a local level, say it's a school environment or a health setting, that, you know, what about system-wide co-production, which is, I think, what we're trying to do is change the culture of practice at system-wide level. Is there a way that we could put some hard evidence and research behind, looking at whether there's any increased resilience in young people, or any, what are the, more stronger outcomes, and what would those outcomes be, either within a commissioning design, co-design, co-commissioning, co-delivery, or co-evaluation environment? So there's a guy I've been working with called Professor Tony Bovied, who is a leading expert in co-production. He's based at Birmingham University. And he's looking to put some funding together, a funding bid, and he's interested to see who might be interested. So if there's anyone interested as well, I'm sure who'd bite your hand off. I think they're looking for to put in a bid for at least a couple of 100,000. But that might be an interesting, thing that we can say. Well, what is the impact of co-production on a system-wide level? Is that something that we ought to be thinking to mobilise that space? I think I'll stop there because I can see your hand as well, Sarah.
It was only so I didn't forget, like, it's fine, don't worry. Yeah, that's absolutely great, and it's a really good point. So yeah, anybody who wants to be linked to the professor would be wonderful. So from our perspective in Blackpool, we work with Lancaster Uni, and we're part of a wider team. The other half of our team is health determinants research. So we've got that research capacity within our wider team, and we are all upskilling as well in terms of our research capabilities, and we're looking at currently evaluating what we do on a much deeper level. And one of our delivery lead is looking to go and do a PhD based on the impact. And like I say, a lot of the academic information that came out following the HeadStart work was around the increase in resilience of young people and families when they were involved in resilience councils and co-production. So that academic stuff is out there, that research is out there, but yeah, I cannot shout loudly enough, absolutely, if you wanted to be involved in that, because it really benefits what we do, and it helps with further funding, and it helps basically back you when you go for bidding for when you go with your pot to the co-commissioning and ask for money.
Brilliant. Just before I know you want to come in, Alice, but just to pick up on one point, that if you've not already come across them, there's an organisation called Co-Production Collective, and they do a lot of research. And I can't get I'll put the link in the chat, but for some reason the chat function's not working for me today. But I'm probably just something on my end. But if you've not heard of it, it's worth googling Co-Production Collective. They have coffee mornings as well. It's not SEND specific, but there's a really interesting learning environment there. Yeah, so Alistair, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it's thanks. I think doesn't it sit in the Council for Disabled Children, the Co-Production Collective, or it's tied to them somehow? Is it not?
No.
Oh, because we worked with there was a group called Kids, KIDS, which did the co-production for us with young people, or worked with us to deliver it. Anyway, you can get grants.
That's
for that
different.
as well, if
I think that's Participation Works. But yeah, they do good work as well. The NCB and the council. Yeah,
it's worth keeping an eye on it because they come in and facilitate things for free, basically.
Yeah.
But I was just going to add on the co-production thing and the principles around the kind of so what and things is I'd be fascinated to see the co-production of solutions, like meeting young people and talking about the actual provision they're going to receive, and then tying that into the de-escalation, because everything at the moment ties back to finances, proving that investing early in that time means that we can change some massive outcomes, both financially, so we can give our resources fairly, but also just on outcomes. And it's all the kind of de-escalation of special school, the one-to-ones. I did put a note in about the early noti officers, but they're not a statutory service as such, but them meeting families at 3 years old and having very transparent conversations about long-term plans really has that change of everyone saying, oh, I want to go to special school. it just all ties together around the commissioning side of things.
100%, yeah. And I think the key. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Go on. No, it's all right. Fine.
No, I think you've hit on a really important point there, which is about looking at the cost impact as well, because, I think so much of officers' time, especially leaders, spend in trying to deal with the aftermath of broken relationships and dealing with complaints, dealing with parental dissatisfaction, etc. All of that takes a huge amount of cost and time and resource. But if you start to have a foundation that's built on trust and relationships and authentic, that I think is the bit that we have to try and put together to say, well, actually, this is saving us, it's restoring relationships and confidence. You can't even put a price on some of that stuff. But
we kind of have to, because that's what gets things over the line and proves that non-statutory service. You've got to be able to say, this service costs 60 grand a year, and we've changed 5 families' decisions and saved 250 grand. You can make it quite a tangible. The other thing I'd say is around the website specifically is when we get that communication right. You'd never be able to prove it, but the amount of officers' time you're saving by driving traffic into and answering questions independently, you're generating this autonomy and this resilience. It's always useful to remind people of that we don't ever know how many phone calls we don't have to answer because Erica's got 50,000 people looking at a website, and it's a massive tool if we use it correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating.
In Birmingham, we've got one website. I discovered as we were looking at provision out there, there's 15 directories that signposted to provision across the city. Not even like 2 or 3. There's literally 15, and they're all and talk about the left hand not talking to the right hand. So so I just said, please, no more directories. Can we just have one single point of reference and make sure the information is accurate and accessible in different languages, etc. But Chloe, did you?
Just to quickly add to your point, Lucky. So I used to work for the Co-Production Collective. And if anyone's interested in any of the work they've done, they have something called the value of co-production, which is research that presents what the value of it is in a really accessible way. And I found that's quite useful in kind of getting people on board who aren't really. And they're also doing something at the moment called measuring success in co-production. So about evaluation in co-production. So that will be kind of live soon. But SEND is very on their radar, as when I worked with them, it was on a SEND program for a couple of years. And they're always up for more people to come to Co-Pro Cuppers and have like chats like this. I haven't worked for them for ages, but I still go every month, and it's really useful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thanks, Chloe. I have managed to put the link in the chat, Lucky. I don't know why you can't. It's not working for you, but
I can find it on my phone for some reason, but it's not coming up on my laptop. It's just
wonderful. Okay. Yeah, we are sort of at the time where we need to be finishing. But Erica, do you want to make a?
It was just to kind of echo what Alistair and Lucky are saying about something that was a big barrier at the beginning was having information about a service in at least 4 or 5 different, whether it's platforms or directories or printed versions, and now everything's like the local offer that is the point of reference, because actually what some people have made a leaflet years ago and they were still hanging around the office and people thought that's what this team did, then they might be somewhere else on the corporate website. And then it was like, which is the most? So again, but through having those local offer champions, it's going, right, I've got 4 different versions of what your team do. You pick which one you want me to spread the word on and hand it over to them. So that is just another bonus of the local offer for me. I've just put in the chat about the Council for Disabled Children local offer community practice, and people, apologies if I'm teaching my granny to suck eggs, but we're doing a local offer peer review, so we've been paired with Bromley and we're doing that at the end of February. So that was just another way of, we've been kind of internally auditing it ourselves for the last couple of years, and then it was like through the chat, which is very much it is very much the forum of people are posting, and then I'm like, oh well, we'll be part of that. just to be in, and there's a framework that I've kind of been testing ourselves on before we're audited, and it was nice to know that, and it's all obviously linking to the code of practice, but it was nice to know that we were only missing a couple of things, and actually some of those are around our restrictions around visually, making it more visually appealing and things like that. So I'm sure you've already know about it, but I put it in the chat.
Thanks, Erica. I think there's just a couple of questions put in there. So Zilla's just asking if anybody in the group would like to form like a group if you're responsible for doing things for your local offer locally, which I think is really good, like a little working group just for people who are responsible for sorting the local offer out. That might be really useful for you guys. So please
I think our young apprentice person, Courtney, might be interested in that. So, just picking up ideas, isn't it? Nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. Jeanette, so you've put a question in there about the training. So we offer training. Our training is face-to-face in Blackpool, but then we do sometimes do training online and training, but that's usually commissioned for something. Like yours is face-to-face as well, isn't it?
It's a mixture of face-to-face, mostly face-to-face, because we found that's what people want. But we can also do an hour and a half online as well. Just a really condensed version, but it's not as interactive as the in-person ones. But the information's actually on our webs on the local offer, right on the front page actually. So if you go to Birmingham local offer, where anyone from this group is welcome. I know Sarah, you came along and found it, and your input was really, because we're constantly reviewing it. It's not the same now to what it was before, because we've had such a review since the last time we did it to now, and it's constantly been co-produced and co-designed. So it's anyone's welcome to come along to that.
It was really worth us coming as well. A couple of us from Blackpool went down to Birmingham to attend the training face to face. It was really interesting to see how somebody else was doing it and what you were talking about and how you'd gone about it. And then we were able to just swap ideas afterwards, weren't we? It's like it was really useful for all of us. So
and it's none
if
of
you
it's
can
like
travel, it's worth it.
It's completely whoever turns up. And whatever happens in real time. So if there's going to be challenges, you're going to see all warts and all, but sometimes you'll see the good things as well.
Okay, well, I think that's been super useful for lots of people. I hope you've all enjoyed it. If hopefully we're happy with the time, and an hour and a half's enough. Now we've gone a little bit over, but we can work those things out together on an ongoing basis. So I say these are on a monthly basis, and we'll be trying to draw in more local authorities and more areas. Really interesting to hear that the Association of Children's Directors is looking at creating one for your area. Like that'd be really interesting, wouldn't it? So thank you so much, everybody. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to stick them in the chat, and we can work together collaboratively through this space. So we'll see you next time, hopefully.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
guys.
Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Karen. Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
Thanks, Kieran. Super to see you. They're a nice bunch, aren't they?
I know,
Yeah, really nice.
busy day today. I've been here, there, and everywhere.
Me too.
Yeah. See you tomorrow evening.
Yeah, see you tomorrow evening. I did send you an email actually, Kieran, just to ask a question. We've got there's something called the inclusion.
Oh, my battery's gonna die.
Oh, is it? You might disappear. Don't worry. We can talk about it tomorrow if it does. Don't worry. There's an inclusion summit in May that's in Burnley, and I've just emailed you with some questions about transport and how you normally get around if it's further afield and full days and things. Have a read of it. Yeah,
I'll get them on to read it, and then we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, super. All right. Talk tomorrow.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Miss Finley. Sarah sent me an email about something in Burnley.